Hi everyone, how's it going? Sergeant Mushroom 92 here again. So today I'm doing something a little bit different, and I'm going to be doing a bit of a review on the T30, the American Tier 9 turreted tank destroyer. Just because I really like this tank, and I really want to make a video, so I'm making a video about this. Now we're going to have a look at the stats of the vehicle, and which of the guns that you should be using on the vehicle. And I'll show you some gameplay of each of the viable guns. And we'll finish up with a wee bit of a conclusion. So, to start with, T30 has 3 different guns. The 105mm AT5E1, the 120mm AT gun T53, and the 155mm gun Gun 150mm AT gun T7. Well done, America. You can name things well. Anyway, that's the 3 guns you get. Now, this gun, straight away, you can get rid of. Firstly, it's not a great gun. If you look at it just compared to the 120mm gun, you're lacking a lot of penetration and alpha damage. Yes, it's got a decent rate of fire and decent aim time, but it's basically turns this into a T29. So that leaves you with a 120mm gun and the 155mm gun. Now the 120mm gun is actually the top gun from the T28 prototype, so you'll already have that unlocked. So you don't need to worry about free XP or anything like that, and it's actually a pretty good gun. If we look at them side by side like this, you can see straight away that the penetration is better on the 155mm gun. Obviously, the alpha damage is too. But there are things that are good about this gun. Let me show you in Tanks GG, because it illustrates it a bit better. So on the right is the 120mm gun, on the left is 155. So you can see DPM is much higher with a 120mm gun, because you can fire 2 shots for every one that this tank, that the 155mm does. Penetration is lower, alpha damage is lower, module damage is lower. City Skylines is starting an event. Good for them. Rate of fire is way up there. Reload time is awesome. 9.3 seconds there. On my crew it's about 6 and 16 on the 155. So yeah, much better rate of fire. 120mm. With much less potential damage, because either way it's 34 rounds. Aim time is better, as we said. Power to weight is a little bit better because the gun is lighter. What else have we got? Yeah, terrain resistances and stuff are a bit better, and shell cost is a bit better. So, I mean, there are advantages to the 120mm gun, but I personally don't like using that because it basically makes your tank a T34. Because that's what the T29, the T34, and the T30 were. They're basically all the same tank, just different guns. So I personally choose to use the 155mm. However, it's a lot of XP, the research is. 66,500 research. Which, to be honest, actually isn't that bad on this tank. You can grind that out pretty easily. Other than that, it's a T30. Mediocre hull armor. 102mm on the upper front plate, 70mm on the machine gun port, which is really weak, and 70mm on the lower plate. The turret is where it shines. 203mm, but angled to 280, 245, 470, 300s. Gun mantlet puts it way up there to 600 in some places. There are weak spots though. Obviously the hull is a giant weak spot. Don't get me wrong, if you can angle it sometimes and you're against a weaker tank, you will get lucky. You know, 170 or something. If you're facing like an IS or an IS-6, you'll get lucky. But for most things, you're gonna get penetrated. A big weak spot is the roof. So as you can see here, it is blue for over penetration, because this whole roof here is only 38mm thick. That means any gun that's, well, basically 120mm guns and up will overmatch this this roof plate here. As well as that, the cupola can be quite weak, depending on where you hit it. If you get lucky and hit it right in the top there, then you're good. If you can hit it, some of these bits here, if you have a high penetration gun, you're going to go through it as well. Mantlet, not going to happen. Now, as you can probably tell, if you have a very high penetration gun, like some of the premium rounds, you can actually go through the cheeks on this thing. So you want to take that into account when you're playing it. Most of the time you do all get hull down, but if you are hull down against, say, something like a Death Star, an FV215B183, and he's firing armor piercing, there is a chance that he will just go right through your cheeks. However, most players who play that just fire Hesh all the time, which is not what I recommend personally, but hey ho, what some people want to do. Anyway, let's get into some gameplay and show you how this thing compares with the 120mm gun and the 155mm gun. So first up, I'm going to showcase to you a tier 10 battle in the T30 using the 120mm gun. Now, I hate this map. If you watch my stream, then you'll know every time I get on this map, I make sure to tell everyone how much I hate it. But I do try to make it work every time. I find it's very situational depending on which tank you're in. Now, I decide, after I accidentally spin my mouse around, I decide that I'm going to go up the hill to the left down here. Because I feel that in that sort of position, I can get my gun depression into play. There's 10 degrees of gun depression in this vehicle. I can get my gun depression into play and bounce a bunch of shots. And I've got a Stritzvang 1030 port. So I'm getting up in position, stop to see if I can get a shot on that T100 LT, which isn't going to happen. Now I'm keeping my turret facing towards the enemies because a lot of tanks like to poke up on that ridge and take shots at people like me. T90, not T90, the very advanced tank for this game. AMX 1390 rather. It looks like he's making a push towards our artillery, so I managed to get a shot into him. Rolling just below average, 400 average damage in this vehicle. Don't quite get the reload on him though. However, friendly tanks, 2 auto-loading tanks and a T100 LT finish him off. So I keep moving. Stritzvang 1030 hasn't encountered any resistance yet, which is fine. So we keep moving up. And that's about when he runs into a TVP T50-51. Now he starts backing up and calling for help. However, obviously I underestimate obviously the distance. However, I tell him that he shouldn't need to back up because he will be able to bounce all of his shots because he only has the 100mm gun. But because he's so close, he's accurate enough to hit the cupolas, which I didn't take into account, so I feel kind of bad for that. Anyway, I start getting my DPM into play, and I get a couple good shots into the batch at 25 TAP that's there. Get him tracked, get him killed. So I move up, because I know I can use the wreck of the batch at 25 TAP as cover to get hull down, and the DVP T50-51 is still there, so I get a shot into him. Artillery gets a good shot into him. I kind of hope that he didn't repair his tracks there. I kind of hesitate my shot there to see if there's any way that I would be able to take his tracks off as well, but I don't really get it. I do critically damage something, but don't know what it was. Anyway, he seems to make a misplay. He can't decide what he's wanting to do, so I finish him off. So I think, okay, great, I'm all alone. I'll move up. But I'm not. 2 wild E75s appear out of nowhere. One with the 105mm gun and one with the 128mm gun. Now, Jedi Frank, he knows what he's doing against this tank. He knows that with the 120mm gun, he can overmatch my roof armor every single time. So even though I'm hull down, he just keeps putting shots into me, which is frustrating. But you'll see a counter tactic to that in just a minute. Now, frustratingly, because I'm using the 120mm gun, I actually can overmatch his roof armor. So I have to start going for the lower plate, which he exposes quite a lot anyway. Now I'm up to 3,642 damage so far with a 120mm gun because of that awesome DPM. And the penetration, although it's lower than 155, is still very good. Now you'll see here that I start to stick my gun up in the air because he can now at this point one-shot me. And by sticking my gun up in the air like that, it offers some protection. He might hit my gun. It offers some protection against shots like that. And I start putting shots into his weak point. Now, artillery stuns me and hits me. Now, artillery hits me again and actually does damage to me, so I can't heal the stunning on that. Not his fault, obviously I'm very close to the enemy tank. Arguably he shouldn't have shot there, but who cares. I reload a premium round because I know that we need to finish this guy off, so I can shoot right through his turret front, finishing him off, getting my 4th kill. We get tracked, so I repair up. I look to see if I can get some vision out. Now our team's doing very well, so I can't get any shots from here. So I decide to move back round. The AMX 5120 follows me, or well, I follow him rather. He's looking for a way down there. It's too steep. I'm not going to risk it. Not with this low hit points. Give him a wee love nudge out the way. And we carry on. And at this point in the rest of the game, I try to make my way over the ice. But there's no more damage left to be had in this game, unfortunately. I basically just drive for a bit, and the AMX 5120 finishes off the Moisian. And that's that. So let's have a look at the 155mm gun and see how it can compare. The battle I'm going to show you, the 155mm gun, is played on a tier 10 assault on Corellia while we're defending. A lot of people don't seem to realize with assaults, especially while defending, that it's not all about attacking. It's, funnily enough, about defending. The game's only 10 minutes long, and you know, if you don't kill all the enemy tanks, that's great. You still win at the end of the 10 minutes, so some people forget that, I guess. But anyway, I start to make my way to the right, but I decide to go left instead, because there's a lot of tank destroyers and heavy tanks going that way. Now, I go to get into some sort of position over to the left there to shoot up the alley, but then I see this IS-3. And of course, the whole sort of magpie mentality took over. I wanted to get a shot on that big fat Soviet heavy tank, and I didn't. But he moves up and gets spotted again. Now I'm just sat in the open here, which is a really bad move in hindsight. I start to try and correct this when he gets spotted again, and he gets absolutely deleted. 737 alpha damage, and it just feels great, and that's what this tank is good for. Especially in this game, you'll see that DPM, or the rate of fire rather, the DPM of the 120mm gun wouldn't really have mattered, because by the time a new target has appeared for me to shoot at, I am reloaded with this gun. I get a really chancy shot here at the T30 and I decide to take it, and it hits. Another 726 damage. Then the Death Star appears, which is really scary for me because of the weak upper glacis plate. He can go right through me with a Hess shell. So I reload, and I get a shot into him. The good thing is right now, I mean, I'm not in concealment or anything, but they're too far away to spot me. So the Death Star pulls away and goes unspotted. I look to see if I can get a shot on the 50 TP prototype, the tier 8 Polish premium heavy tank, but he's well hidden behind a rock. I'm not going to get shots on him. Now I keep my situational awareness up. I keep looking around, making sure that there's nobody that's going to spank me in the side. 50 TP disappears again. I'm like hoping beyond hope that he just pulls out and I can finish him off, but he doesn't, sadly. So 3 shots in, we're up to 2,100 damage. And then I spot this T-54 in the open. We're going to slow it down here, because this is beautiful. Headshots. And this is the reason, well, that is one of the reasons why I use this this gun on this tank. The module damage is extreme. I cannot tell you how many ammo racks I've had in this tank. I haven't had ammo racks in a long time. As you can see from my first video, I said I don't get ammo racks a lot. But in this tank, you just do, because the module damage is so high. That's a free 1,650 damage right there. Put me up to 3,821. Now, the rest of this game is a bit boring. I just sort of wait about for the enemies and they all get picked off by my teammates. So we'll head back to the garage. So as I said at the start of this video, I personally prefer to play this tank with the 155mm gun. As you can see by the last gameplay video, you tend to more often than not in this vehicle be in a position where the DPM, or the rate of fire, doesn't really matter that much. As you saw, pretty much every shot I fired, I was ready and reloaded by the next time an enemy is there. And that falls down, I guess, partly to the way that this tank is played, and it is kind of played as a sniping tank destroyer because of that hull armor. Granted, if you can get hull down, you'll do great, but even then, guns with over 120mm inclusive will overmatch your roof armor, so it's not advisable to play this as a brawling tank, but you can do it, certainly. So yeah, overall I would definitely recommend the 155, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend to free experience it, because as you saw, the 120mm gun is perfectly usable, although it doesn't have quite as good penetration, so you'll need to take a few more premium rounds. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave a like and a comment down below. If you didn't, leave a dislike and say what you didn't like about it. And if you really enjoyed the content and you want to see more, then feel free to subscribe, and let me know if there's a particular vehicle that you'd like me to do one of these sort of videos on, and if I have the vehicle, then I'll do it. I do also have a Twitch channel where I stream fairly regularly, usually at least twice a week. So if you'd like to see more content by me that's not necessarily a video, and a bit more regular, then the live streams are where to get me. I'll leave a link to that in the description, and I would really appreciate any follows on that as well. But until next time, I hope you've enjoyed and have a great day.